Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my reaction to Gabriela Fundora winning via TKO in round 7 versus Marilyn Badillo to remain undisputed world flyweight champion. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So this was obviously a Golden Boy event. It was one headlined by Gabriela Fundora, and it was always interesting to me to see how well she would be able to sell as a headliner. And in a fight like this, where perhaps she was against an opponent in which, was made to possibly kind of look good for Fundora. I think it was definitely a style that favoured Fundora, and it was kind of a recipe for Fundora to win. It was interesting to see how well she'd sell. It seems like she's definitely got a good fan base, a good enough fan base to sell. I know her brother is often able to headline main events because of the entertaining fights in which she's always in. But now Gabriela is able to sell as well because she's in entertaining fights always, and she's always, well, at least at the moment, on a good stoppage run, and she's showing that she has the power, especially in the flyweight division, to cause some real problems for fighters. And so, again, like I say, she wins via TKO in round 7. It was a very good, mature fight for her. This fight could have easily been maybe a little bit of a banana skin. Like I say, it was definitely a stylistic matchup in which favoured Fundora, and the way that Badillo fights was gonna be slipping and sliding, trying to dodge punches, using her good upper body movement, and then trying to spring it with a shot or two. But I thought, possibly at times she did want to go in and try and scrap and get into the middle and go to the body and things like that, and she has been known to do that a little bit, and I thought that was the kind of main way in which she might have caused problems for Fundora. But she didn't really do that, and for the most part she was kind of just struggling to get in range. There was a couple of times in which she caught Fundora just waiting a bit too long. Fundora's movement isn't ever anything too crazy, but there was a couple of times in which she showcased alright head movement herself, Fundora. But in general, just a very dominant performance with the jab being excellent, keeping the range. That's exactly what you want to see. And throughout most of it, just picking her shots very well. She knows how to throw downwards very well. Like I say, very tactical. You can see her being smart with her shots. But if she's going to be a flat-footed fighter who perhaps doesn't have the best defensive movement, at least she's got to use that flat-footedness to her advantage and really sit down on them shots. It took a few rounds for her to really sit down on them shots. Badillo was causing a few issues with her accuracy at times, Fundora, but when she did get going and did sit down on her shots, kind of the end of the 6th round, going into that 7th round, she was definitely landing some powerful shots. And it's them shots in which you're seeing, and it's kind of giving a reaction out of you, like a, oh, this is her, this is done some damage here, and that's what you want to see. And it's nice to see, like I say, really just showcasing that she does have the power in her. And it's nice to see, especially with the weight as well. There's been a lot of talks about her possibly not really having too many other big challenges in the flyweight division, and to be able to really get somebody who can match her power, she might have to go up in the division. And she had to showcase that by getting a stoppage, because she could have easily coasted through the fight and be able to get a unanimous decision win. But there's a lot of female champions in which do that. There's not that many that are getting the stoppages like she is, and that's why she's was fighter of the year last year. That's why she is making these statements. That's why she's building a fan base, and she's becoming one of the pound for pound stars in the women's kind of scene at the moment, and is really a breakout type of fighter still in the women's scene. Even though she is undisputed champion, she is not far, a couple big fights away now from being one of the faces of female boxing. And so, like I say, it's excellent to see that she's got the backing from Golden Boy, and like I say, she's headlining events, and maybe we'll see her on a Riyadh season show soon. Like I've mentioned, the only kind of fight in the flyweight division that perhaps might happen, which would be a good fight, would be Valle versus Fundora. Now that Valle just fought Esparza and was able to get a win. But even at that point, Valle has been a minimum weight champion, and realistically, Fundora being such a big flyweight, it would be such a big jump. And it's a good name to have on the record to be able to beat if she could beat Avaye, but it's just not really a fight that perhaps would give her too much credit, because, like I say, everybody will just talk about the size difference between the two of them. And so Fundora probably will have to move up in weight if she is going to get tough contests. She might stick around for one or two more fights in the flyweight division just because she seems to be enjoying herself at the moment. But it seems like most likely within the next couple of fights, she probably will move up and then try and chase some real challenges there. Like I say, I don't necessarily know if other than Valle, Golden Boy will be willing to give her too many other challenges. So, like I say, it might have to be on a Riyadh season type of show in which now that Sky Nicholson has had a loss, is kind of needing a new female fighter to come through because His Excellency was willing to let Sky Nicholson fight on the Riyadh season shows, but now she's lost. It seems like there could be a new slot for a new female fighter to come through and get this opportunity. Now, I feel like Gabriela Fundora could easily slide into that as the female face of Riyadh season boxing, and so we will have to, of course, wait and see. But like I say, she has great potential and is really showcasing that, and like I say, really building a brand for herself as well, which is perfect and excellent to see. Another kind of big fight in which I just wanted to talk about on this card, which had quite a big decision to it, was Charles Conwell losing via split decision versus Jorge Perez. Charles Conwell was, the undefeated guy. Perez was somebody who had got a couple losses on his record, was definitely on paper the worst fighter to what Charles Conwell had faced previously, but Conwell was just coming in a bit one dimensionally. I think he didn't really master his range too much. I think he was just coming in with singular shots too much. I think I did like seeing Perez continuously just catch Conwell coming forwards with multiple shots instead of just a singular one. If he'd have just been throwing singular ones himself, Perez, when Conwell was coming in, I think he wouldn't have caused as much damage because I don't think he was that powerful, and I think he probably would have lost the fight. I think it was just the fact that he was throwing that bit more, even if they were, like I said, possibly less powerful shots than what he maybe could have. He was doing enough by throwing more and was causing Conwell problems. And like I say, Conwell was holding on quite a lot, and like I say, was either kind of too far out of range or all the way in range. And it's difficult thing, range management. Loads of fighters struggle with it, but this was an interesting performance from Conwell. Definitely not his best. I'm sure Golden Boy will give him opportunities to rebuild on lower kind of fights, and probably won't give him another big step up fight for a while now, and that's sad to see. Realistically, I feel like he didn't lose badly. I feel like they could try and throw him in for a rematch, but I just doubt that they will be willing to do that. We will have to wait and see. But like I said, that was a big kind of shock upset fight on the card. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did need a like video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.